Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Strategies to Create a Healthier Classroom. I'm Elisha Batdorf, a marketing director at Eyesafe, and I'll be your host. As we go along, feel free to enter any questions into the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end. Today, we'll be covering the effects of rising screen time on students, including sleep, eye health, and social emotional learning. We'll be hearing from three expert speakers, including Dr. Premilla Banwait, a pediatric optometrist and VP clinical programs at UnitedHealthcare, Dr. Jennette Vanderpool, a former school administrator and current school board member who serves as an education strategist at CDW, and Mike deFisser, EVP of Sales at Eyesafe. Before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about Blue Light Awareness Day. Blue Light Awareness Day originated in 2019 in the state of California when the legislature was presented with a substantial body of evidence suggesting that too much screen time and blue light exposure may be detrimental to our health. Since then, we've seen France enact regulation to ban blue light emitting toys, while China enforces screen time limits for children. Now we'll hear from our first speaker, Premilla, who will talk more about the connection between vision and learning and how blue light and screen time may affect children's health. Premilla, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Elisha. I'm really excited to be here today to speak on this topic that's near and dear to my heart. Um, Over my experience with 13 years of seeing pediatric patients, I've really seen the impact that digital screens has on their overall well-being and their eye health. So I'll get this talk started by highlighting some key statistics that we're seeing when it comes to the impact vision has on learning. On average, about 1 in 4 students or children are affected by a vision problem. And we really see the prevalence of this increase as children get older. So it may start off as seeing 1 in 5, 1 in 6 children, having vision issues when they're in preschool, early elementary school. And then this creeps up to almost about 1 in 3 kids having issues by the time they reach high school. And it's really even more important to know this, especially when we know that 65% of people are visual learners, opposed to being auditory or kinesthetic type learners. Lastly, here, 80% of what a child learns is through their eyes. So overall, this can really affect a child's physical, emotional, and social development if they are not seeing to their best capacity. So, refractive errors are issues that really require a child to need glasses or some kind of vision correction to see clearly. And this is the most common issue that we see in children when it comes to vision. It can be broken down into these three types. So, myopia, which is otherwise known as nearsightedness. There is hyperopia, which is also known as farsightedness. And then there's astigmatism, which is a component of when the eye is not focusing properly because of an irregular shaped cornea, which is the front part of the eye itself. And when kids are not corrected, or when anyone is not corrected, it decreases their vision and it can really affect their overall ability to engage in school and other activities. And in particular, when it comes to myopia, this is a condition we're seeing occur more and more over the past couple decades. It actually occurs up to 30 to 40% of children by the time they reach high school. And this is something else that really is important to keep note of and to keep track of in your young kids, because there are ways that you can manage this. So there are several signs and symptoms that parents and teachers can look out for to kind of see if there are any visual issues happening in a child. Some of these are kind of more typical and include headaches, after long periods of work, losing their place when reading, squinting, tilting the head. You can even see sensitivity to light, and then overall avoidance of near activities or near work. But it's also very important to note that not all of these symptoms can be visible. A lot of the times children don't even complain about their visual issues because they truly don't know any better. And I can't really tell you how many times I have had a child come through into my office and really say, "Oh gosh, I thought everyone really saw just like I did until I got glasses and saw better." So that just really highlights the need to actually get your child in for an eye exam or student in for an eye exam, even though they may not be expressing any visual concerns. Another component here also is there are other issues that can be detected through an eye exam, such as ocular dysfunction, binocular vision dysfunction when the eyes are not working together. So, in addition to just seeing clearly, there are other things that can be detected in an eye exam. So, now we'll jump into how vision is impacted by digital screens or screens that emit blue light from LED lights. So, as of recent, we're seeing children spend about 4 to 6 hours per day on digital screens. And this increases as children become older. And for teens, we actually are seeing even more hours, up to 9 hours a day. Um, Teens also tend to own their own smartphones and their own digital devices. So not only are they on these devices for more hours a day, but these devices are around them at all times. So it's something that they really don't part ways with throughout much of the day. And then we also see this obviously impacting their quality of sleep, their overall health, which then leads into impacts in school performance and learning performance, as well as other activities. According to an educator and a parent screen time survey, 33% of parents really say that their child experiences some kind of symptoms from being on digital devices. And 71% of teachers say they experience digital related eye strain as well. So, what is blue light? Blue light surrounds us. The largest amount of blue light is emitted from the natural light we see around us, which is from the sun. But this is natural, this is almost healthy for us to be around. What we get concerned about is the blue light that's emitted from more artificial sources. So, digital screens, which have the blue light emitted from them. And that tends to peak around 435, 440 nanometers in the light spectrum. So, there's a good amount of supporting research on the effects of blue light and digital screens. In the eye care community, we are concerned about the short term effects of being on digital screens and the effects on circadian rhythm and overall well being, as well as ocular surface health issues, such as irritation that may come from being on devices for long periods of time that leads to reduced blinking. So, this highlights some of the research that's focused on looking at long term effects of the viability of things such as the retinal cells and the corneal cells of the human eye. Again, there's still a lot that's unknown, but there is a lot of dedicated effort being put onto this type of research today. So, as screen time increases, especially for children, we're seeing higher prevalence of issues such as dry eye, blurred vision, trouble sleeping, issues with social emotional learning, and that all translates to more longer term effects. So, since the children's eyes are still developing, especially a component called the lens, which is a component of the eye that focuses light, um, we see that 45% of blue light actually penetrates a child's eyes compared to an adult's. They don't have that special filtering capability built in yet. So this causes them to be a lot more sensitive to the light, and it doesn't really help when they're holding up screens, digital screens up close to them for longer periods throughout the day. So again, something that we really need to be on top of in terms of protecting our child's eyes. So this screen time report shows that 94% of eye care professionals are concerned about the increased screen time that individuals are being exposed to. It also shows that 85% of parents are concerned about the impact of screen time, and also that 61% of parents and teachers also believe that schools have a responsibility to help curb the amount of screen time that their students are exposed to. And here's some great tips on how we can really reduce our impact and exposure to digital devices. So, improving your workspace ergonomics or how your study space is set up is critical. You should really focus on keeping your screen about a good 30 inches or more away from you, which helps to avoid glare and just that impact of more concentrated blue light. Um, and probably another important point is the use of displays that have blue light screen protections on them is something that will kind of really negate a lot of that impact. Another thing is it's really important to rest your eyes throughout the day. So the 20-20-20 rule is a good one to really remember as it helps us take breaks every 20 minutes for 20 seconds while looking at something about 20 feet away. And lastly, consulting with your eye doctor about anything that's going on with your eyes that may be bothering you, even if it may be more mild, is really important to avoid it kind of ramping up and causing more longer term impacts in the future. So, getting in for a regular eye exam for yourself, your children, your whole family is really important. Another item is you can also consider using blue light glasses or blue light lenses, which are aimed for helping to filter out some of that blue light that's emitted from these devices.
Thanks so much, Premilla. That was very insightful. Next, we're going to hear from Jennette Vanderpool, who will talk about how technology usage has increased over the last few years and how that is affecting student well being.
Well, thank you so much for being here, everybody. And like how we talked about earlier, I'm a former district administrator in the special education realm. And I can't tell you how many times we've done outside referrals for vision therapy, for tracking issues, for eye fatigue. We know that social emotional wellness is a huge component of learning. Sleep is a huge component of that. In California, it's mandated that we start school for middle school and high school at least a half hour later. And all of that was related to students not getting enough sleep. And as an admin and now a current evangelist for education across California at CDW as an education strategist, just making sure that we're on the correct side of history, making sure that we are really being on the offense instead of the defense, making sure that we're looking at the student holistically and holistically for all of their needs. So I love this project that we're working on with Eyesafe and United Healthcare to make sure that we can decrease the amount of blue light that students are being exposed to. So therefore increasing their ability to track for reading, for literacy, and also just really decreasing, like I said, the eye fatigue so that they can be more engaged learners. Over the past few years, especially coming out of COVID, which I don't even like to say the word, but a lot of students, all of our students, had to participate in school online. Now, the good thing about that is we did see this new digital renaissance, right? So our students, either most districts are either a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning those students take the devices home. No matter what, students are working on devices throughout the school day. There's a lot of amazing learning apps out there that teachers are using to engage their students, tricking them into learning. But then also for our CTE pathways and career development, it's important for our students to be digital learners, have digital citizenship, and homework. We're not turning in paperwork anymore for homework. It's all submitted online. So the amount of exposure that these students are getting to blue lights is high, and we are starting to see a lot of eye fatigue. You're seeing students tired in classroom and so in their classrooms and also at home. So anything that we can do to help decrease that exposure and increase student engagement, I'm all on board for. So one of the parts that I spoke about just a little bit ago is that the exposure to blue light. So it's on their phones because we know our kids are constantly on their phones. I'm also a mom of four in addition to being a former school administrator. So I know these kids are always on their phones, they're always on their devices. I have a little one playing video games right now in the other room, so I know that he's being exposed to some. And I want to make sure that it's consistent coverage for our students and our children so that the decrease in the blue light doesn't have the negative ramifications on our children. And I just want to be, like I said, on offense instead of the defense and making sure that I can protect their eyesight and also increase their ability to learn in every way possible. We do know that this can, like I said, disrupt sleep patterns. And when we think about Maslow's theory of hierarchy, we want to make sure that the physical self is met first. So anything also that I can help my children and my students get some better sleep, I want that to happen so that they can be more engaged learners in the morning. And that's where the Eyesafe blue light coverage comes into place for the numerous devices. Eye fatigue may lead to lower test scores, but even outside of test scores, like I said, student engagement and retention of information. If you're tired, if your eyes have fatigue, we all have experienced eye fatigue probably every day, especially at the end of the day, right? And we need for our students to be engaged, which I keep saying. We're getting into testing season towards the end of the school year. Our testing is done online, so that's going to be blue light exposure as well. But then leading up to that, to be be able to retain the information, everything that they're going to be doing as far as classwork, homework, which then increase those test scores, is probably going to be done on a Chromebook or some other device that is an online app, therefore increasing the blue light exposure. And that's another way that if we do get the safety measures put in place, we're going to be able to increase the engagement and the alertness, and therefore increase test scores as well.
Thanks, Jennette, for sharing your perspective on how tech in education is changing and what that means to students' academic performance and social emotional learning. Next, we'll hear from Mike, who will share some strategies to protect students from blue light, as well as some great resources. Mike, off to you.
Thanks, Elijah. As Elijah said, my name is Mike deFisser, and I lead our sales and field operations for Eyesafe. I'm looking forward to talking about some strategies that you can take. First one I'd like to talk about is just implementing screen time guidelines throughout the school day with regular breaks. All teachers and parents should take this as the heart and try to make sure their kids have breaks from the school time. As Premilla mentioned, every 20 minutes, look 20 feet away for 20 seconds and even blink your eyes. That will help as well. Incorporating lessons or workshops on eye health and encouraging regular eye exams. Highly encourage that. One of the things I learned just with our partnership with UnitedHealthcare, how important that was. But we absolutely recommend that the children have annual health exams. Finally, it's installing blue light screen protectors on all school-owned devices. So I'll talk a little bit about what these screen protectors are, but that's a key part of protecting the eyes. So Eyesafe is a provider for these screen protectors. One of the things that we did early on is we focused on a lot of science and a lot of medical, and we have over 80 patents around our products. So our screen protectors do several things. One is they reduce the high energy blue light. So as was mentioned earlier, there's healthy blue light from the sun, but the blue light that's coming from the digital devices is not healthy. So we reduce that. We maintain the screen color. So when you put one of our screen protectors on your device, you have the same brightness, the same luminance. The colors look the way they're supposed to. I would encourage anyone, if they have a phone, you can just turn on your night shift or blue light toggle switch, and you'll see the color change. When you put one of our screen protectors on the device, it stays very vibrant. Our screen protectors also protect the devices. So we have scratch and crack protection from the devices. And we help a lot of schools with their protection program around all their devices as they deploy them to the students. So this is also important from the school administration standpoint. Our products are developed with eye doctors. So early on, the company, we put a panel together of different ophthalmologists and optometrists to help provide information, just help with the science research, help with the medical research. And as we came up with our products, they're all back from eye doctors. And finally, we have a great partner with CDW. So CDW is our distributor with school districts. We work closely with them on the education and sharing of best practices. They also help provide our products to schools. We, in partnership with UnitedHealthcare, have published a book, How to Save Your Eyes for the Digital Age. We also have a PDF with a lot of different information. You can download them. If you would like to have a specific hard copy, feel free to reach out to me directly at mike@eyesafe.com. And glad we'll get you a hard copy of any of this information as well. I appreciate you allowing me to take a few minutes to educate you on the products that Eyesafe has behind their solutions.
Thank you, Premilla, Jennette, and Mike. Next, we'll move on to our Q&A session. Please keep those questions coming using the Q&A button on your screen, and we'll get to as many as possible. Our first question is for Premilla. Would doctors say that sleep disruption is the primary concern related to blue light exposure?
Yeah, I would say that definitely is one of the primary concerns. I think there's a lot of research out there that really points to the effect that that blue light exposure, digital screen exposure has on sleep, especially for young children. That is probably one of the more primary concerns.
The next question is for Mike. There are a lot of blue light solutions available. How do I know what's best for me and my students?
I would recommend something that's doctor designed and that the product has the goal of managing peak blue light in the areas that the medical community has advised. There's a lot of products out there that you could find on Amazon that they just basically dim the lights and reduce all of the blue light. And that's what impacts the color, but also doesn't take out that bad area of the blue light. So something that focuses on the peak, something that has no impact to the color and something that's also doctor designed.
We have another question that came in for Jennette. Are the Eyesafe blue light screen protectors primarily for blue light filtration, or do they also protect my device?
Right, good question. So they are a two-in-one. So they're going to protect the screen from breakage, but then they're also going to protect students' eyesight as well. So when we're doing stuff like this in a school district, we need to, number one, make sure that there's the data to support the claim that this can protect our students. We need to make sure there's data to support the claim that it can protect our devices, because we need to be fiscally responsible as well as responsible of our students' health. So I love the fact that Eyesafe and UnitedHealthcare is united to work with CDW to provide something that meets both of those needs. So if a district is doing a Chromebook rollout and they're going to be getting hundreds, if not thousands, of devices, it would suit me from a financial standpoint and wanting to do good for our kids to get a two-in-one that I know is backed up by doctors, that is consistent across all the devices. And also, I love the fact that it doesn't limit the vitality and the vision part of the device, that it's making sure that everything still stays bright and clear. Because I'm also thinking about students with any kind of a vision impairment that needs the brightness as well, but we just want to take away that blue light. So, yes, it does protect the device from breakage as well as protect the student's eyesight.
Our next question is for Premilla. I have prescription lenses with a blue light coating. Is that enough to protect my eyes?
That's a great question. I mean, it definitely does protect your eyes a good amount, but what I would say is even better is the more barriers you have up between yourself and your device, the better. So, getting the blue light screen protectors is super important as well. Also, knowing that, kids, especially young kids, maybe taking their glasses off on and off constantly, you can't always ensure that they're going to be keeping them on the full time. So yeah, just again, having that extra barrier between your eyes and the screen is I think definitely helpful.
Our next question is for Jennette. How can we strike a balance between incorporating technology into the curriculum while ensuring students' well being?
Well-being can be a multitude of things, right? We're looking at cognitive, emotional, and physical well-being. So we need to incorporate more technology to make sure that we're preparing them for career paths. Absolutely, because we know every single career out there has some sort of technological component to it. We need to make sure on the wellness side of digital literacy and digital citizenship, don't always believe everything you see on I almost said Facebook, but that would date myself in age, right? So don't believe everything you see on Instagram, kids, making sure you do your research. Like right now, we're providing you the data science behind, a device or a product. And then emotional wellness. I mean, there's a lot of great apps and devices that districts can put into place to check on the social emotional wellness of the students. I won't name all of them right now, but we need to have it be part of our education, part of our teaching, part of our pedagogy, part of our best practices, that just accentuates everything that we've been doing that's good for students, making sure that it's standardized instruction, project-based learning paired with direct instruction, and like I said, meeting the physical, cognitive, and social emotional needs of the student while incorporating the technology, but it doesn't have to be everything.
With that, we've reached the end of today's webinar. I hope you found it valuable and engaging. Have a great day.